Conference special meeting for August the 22nd, 2022. Your Franklin County Fiscal Court at work. The first item on the agenda is called the order of this meeting. We call this meeting to order and we will, this is the work session and after the work session, we will go into our regular voting meeting. Here, hang on a second. And there's already.
Well, we got item one.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome, everybody. All right, Robert, I'm going to ask you, and we have Rick on the line, because of the issues that are before us today, there's a lot of technicalities. And so, Robert, I'm going to ask you to review with the court what we will be doing today, as well as the audience on how we will be working through this process. Okay?
Yes, sir. Good evening, court and members in the audience. Good to see everyone on the computer. So the items on this evening's agenda start out as item number 2, which relates to a resolution to accept and affirm the recommendation by the planning commission relating to a zone map amendment request for the property at 690 Duncan Road from an agricultural designation to an industrial general designation. The planning commission held an evidentiary hearing on May 5th and June the 9th, in which time they recommended denial to this body by a vote of 6-3. So the court has the option to this evening to accept that resolution and vote on it, have a final decision. It only takes one vote to the resolution and then the action is complete. Or you have the option to, in item number 3, establish your own findings of fact based on the audio video recording of the proceedings of the planning commission. Based on that, you can establish your own findings of fact this evening. And if you choose to, move on to item number 4 and then have first reading of an ordinance to overturn the planning commission's recommendation with your own findings of fact and make your own determination for approval. So I guess that's it in a nutshell, in a very basic form. I'm happy to answer any procedural questions related to that. Of course, Councilor Sparks is available as well.
Okay, are there questions before we move forward? Everybody understand what we're going to be doing? So as part of the first item that we need to discuss is your thoughts about what you want to do as the court to confirm the planning and zoning committee's recommendation for denial of the property, or do you as a court want to continue forward and look at findings of fact to move forward with it? So I open the floor for discussion on the court and looking for we'll ultimately end up looking for a majority one way or the other.
Yes.
All right, Booth, you want to say something?
Oh, well, I visited 690 Duncan Road. The 2020 proceedings loom large in my mind. And I felt it was better than it was then in 2020, the land. However, because Cherney, the owner of the property, did not obey the laws of our county, I am torn to approve his request because I don't know in my mind whether he will obey the laws of our county now. And that is why I am torn about it, because I know we need more industry. And I would like to hear something about the industry he already has here. I guess that was in the video that we saw. But I'm just afraid because of the fact that he did not respect the laws of our county at that time. And I don't know, based on that, whether he will now. So I am torn between yes and no on this item 1, item 2 on our agenda.
Robert, do you know of any laws that were broken out there?
If I could first, Mr. Sparks, I don't recall that exact question during the hearing. Am I able to address Squire Moore's question?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you. The question was,
Well, did you ever have to do a cease and desist on him or anything?
no, I did not, nor did the state contain.
Well, I don't recall any laws, let's put it this, I don't recall any laws being cited out there other than what we received as a complaint that there wasn't any laws.
Well, there are complaints. I do know that air quality appeared on site. That's based on information by the fire chief, but I don't believe there are any citations issued. And that's from the fire department, that's from air quality, that's from my office, and that's from the division of water.
Any other questions for Robert on that?
I don't, I have one for Counselor Sparks,
Okay,
if it's okay, Judge.
sure.
All right, thank you. So Counselor Sparks, yes, at our last fiscal court meeting, this item was postponed until today. So that you could and would have time to review a filing in Franklin Circuit Court. Does that have any bearing on what we're going to do today?
Yes, and I'd like to thank the court, and I appreciate your all's understanding of that late pleading that we received back here a couple of weeks ago. The writ that was received by the county is requesting and has requesting planning and zoning inspect and then cite appropriately for any violations that may have occurred at Mr. Tierney's property. I don't think that it has any bearing relative to the complaint per se in a proximal way. The issues were addressed, and if you watch the video, and they were also addressed in some of the findings by staff. I think it is important to take into consideration everything that was received in your packet back here 2 weeks ago. Those matters were addressed, specifically water quality, drain off, things like that. But the fact of that lawsuit requesting an inspection, if it had not occurred, and appropriate citation, is not a negative in the court's consideration of this proposal. Some of the issues in question were addressed and are to be addressed even now, and that was in your packet 2 weeks ago. So it has a bearing, but that lawsuit and that writ, I should call it, was not a disqualification for the consideration of the zone change.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Judge. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Sparks, would it be allowable, permissible for Mr. Rump to speak on behalf of his client for that question that Squire Booth has asked?
I certainly would not impugn Mr. Rump's inquiry and answer to any matters that the court has. If you think that is something that should be considered, whether or not there were any violations, and I think that was the quote or the concern for Squire Booth, citations, et cetera. I think that's what the point of it is here on. Those kind of matters were addressed also if you watch the transcript, the video, as well as staff reports. Again, they seem to focus on water quality issues. But it's you all get to ask the people the questions on what you want to ask them. If he's there and he can answer a question, I'd certainly ask the court to do so if that's what you want to do.
Okay, just wanted to make sure if it was, okay. Sparks Bassett.
Thank you, Judge. Counselor Sparks, have another question for you. Is any of the material from 2020 that we were given, is any of that to be included in our discussion and or deliberation today?
I think those matters were addressed also in the transcript as well as the summary from planning and zoning, and they did address changes, et cetera, and what had occurred from 2020 here to 2022. I think there's in the process that the court is going through, you can't look at it in a total vacuum. And the court had reasons for denial of certain things back in 2020. And if you still have concerns about those things, because they exist and they were found matters of the court, I would assume that the court's going to be addressing those matters with all of the parties here. And they were, in fact, they were included. If they were included, if nothing else, they were included by reference.
Okay.
Mr. Rumpf, I'm going to call on you to come forward and speak to the
I'll address the second issue first, and the second question first. These things stand alone. The fact that there were old materials included in what was submitted to the planning commission that were not part of this hearing, but they were part of stuff that happened at a previous time in a previous one or two hearings. Substantially, in my view, limits the relevance to this. You have a hearing, parties are all present, and they present their proof. The fact of the matter, the 2020 application, we had 2 hearings that lasted over 12 hours and had a lot of stuff in there that were not aimed at the question that was before either the planning commission or the court. The question before the court today, as was before the court before, is does this application make a request that agrees with the adopted comprehensive plan of the county of Franklin County? That's the question. Does it agree with that? And we have submitted information in a very, we had volume, and you all saw it all. You saw the video, and you saw all the stuff from 2020. A lot of that stuff, like for instance, was there something Mr. Tierney did illegal? I think as the county attorney has said, is that relevant? It's relevant to the idea of what type of person that Mr. Tierney might be, but it's not relevant as to what complies with your all's comprehensive plan. Now, I will tell you that having represented Mr. Tierney for over 25 years, and also in this matter for over 5 years, he has done everything he's been asked to do. If your planning office asked him to do something, he did it. And if the state asked him to do something, he did it. This lawsuit clearly demonstrated when someone questioned whether or not he had the right kind of permit, he did it. His engineers did it that day. When they questioned him about the water quality issues, he presented, he has engineers that presented information concerning those. So in answer to the first question about illegal activities, whether it involves a grave that he moved, whether it involves a house that he removed, all of those things did not result in any type of citation. And the water quality and the things that are involved with the lawsuit, so to speak, were all handled with Mr. Hewitt's office. And when Mr. Otis came and inspected, they put up the silk fences and did all of the things that they were required to do. We spent a lot of time talking about those issues. And so really, you might say his character was on trial along with his zoning request. But I asked the court to focus on the zoning request because that's what we're here to talk about. And your question is, does it agree with the map of the comprehensive plan, the future land use map? And does it agree with the text of the comprehensive plan in terms of how you're going to have Franklin County develop and how you're going to have their land used? Now, I'm also might point out that this map is not something that somebody just, this future land use map is not something somebody drummed up in the last couple of years. It has been, this property has been designated for industrial use for over 20 years in 3 or 4 revisions of the comprehensive plan. And the Franklin Plant Board recognized that. And that's why I included in the package I sent you the maps of the water and the sewer. It's a pretty unusual piece of property that the Franklin Plant Board spends millions of dollars to get water and sewer to, if it was nobody's idea that it would be used on this property. So I ask you this, these things, I mean, I'm a human being, and, you know, I understand why people are concerned if somebody thinks they're not acting in accordance with the law, particularly if they're my neighbor. I understand that. But what I'm asking you to focus on is the issue of what's before you tonight, and that is, does this proposal agree with your all's adopted comprehensive plan?
Mr. Rump, do you, as a representative of Mr. Tierney, understand that the community is and was concerned, or was and is concerned about these particular issues, whether they were citational or not?
Absolutely. And, you know, I sat through a hearing at the planning commission. I don't think it's part of the tape you all got, but the hearing before, and it was a hearing about water and about drainage. And it was a 90-unit apartment unit that was being built in on a 7-acre site. And there was very much concern about that. And there was very much talk about that. And so this water issue, to me, which is a real issue, it wasn't as bad as it wasn't as prominent at the second hearing as it was back in 2020. But this water issue is something Mr. Tierney has taken very, very seriously. He plans to leave that lake there, and he's already indicated to the planning office that he intends to upsize his drainage so that he will catch more than he has to catch, just as they did to this developer hearing before. I mean, the standard would be is after development, you don't have any more runoff in a 100-year storm than you had before development. They made the planning commission in this hearing before us. I think they made it go 125% of the runoff in that hearing. Now that means that Mr. Tierney, if they apply that same standard to him, will catch 25% more rainwater than he has to and detain it on the property and release it slowly. So rather than this create a water issue problem or a drainage problem, it's actually going to actually correct. And you remember former chairman Sharon Jackson, his question about how he drove out to the property and he asked Mr. Tierney, and Mr. Tierney really didn't catch on to what he was asking him, but he was asking him, he said he was out there on a rainy day and all this water was running off Industrial Park #1. And how was that going to affect this development? Well, the fact of the matter is, Mr. Tierney is going to put in infrastructure to catch that water and keep it from getting in downstream into the to the waterway that my good friend Roger Crittenden appeared at the first hearing and talked about. So the whole idea, if you do this development right, it actually helps you. And you know, you saw in the transcript how when Mr. Tierney goes to develop this property, he's going to have to come back with a development plan. His engineers are going to have to study the water flow from the property. They're going to have to design infrastructure that suits Mr. Hewitt's office. And Mr. Hewitt's office has already indicated that's going to be like going through the drive-through Wendy's. It's going to be Wendy's. It's going to be supersized infrastructure so that it will aid your all's problem rather than hurt. So, okay. Now, the other stuff, I mean, we can beat ourselves up, but I tell you what, every time Mr. Hewitt told him to do something, every time Mr. Otis told him to do something, he did it. He did it.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the court to Mr. Rump? All right, Tracy.
Obviously, in the past, flooding was a huge concern for everyone, but I'm referenced that as well. But in this document here, it says the large pond located on the property is depicted on the concept plan as a potential stormwater management basin surrounded by green space. You're saying that pond is going to be,
Absolutely.
okay,
We've already built an additional retention pond out.
They're gonna actually raise the dam.
Will be a third pond retention that they should build.
Right.
The one in Woodford County?
It'll be, no, it'll be in Franklin.
Okay.
That goes
So
in
this pond is right there, as you go in on the right, the big pond. And then they're gonna have another pond on the back towards the YMCA. They're shown there on the development plan, the areas. And when you say potential, I know what's got you wrong, because I'm a lawyer, I go to this with my wife all the time, when she uses the word like that, potential. I mean, I've talked to the engineer. The reason he's showing his potential is it may be there or it may be somewhere else, but the stormwater will satisfy Mr. Hewitt's engineer, the stormwater management.
I'm gonna let Mr. Hewitt, address that too. This process, what Mr. Rumpf just talked about will come, they will design, they'll come to you. You will approve or add to or whatever to make sure that it is designed to do what it's supposed to do. Is that correct, Robert? Thank you. The court would like to hear from you. Mr. Rumpf, thank you.
Oh, thank
You
you.
may be
Very,
calling
very
you up
much.
again in a minute.
Okay, well, I'll be glad to.
So, yes, Judge, you are correct. Mr. Tierney's engineer will design stormwater plan. It's submitted to my office, the county engineer will review it, revisions are requested, required as needed. And then those findings will all be presented to the planning commission at the time of development plan submittal to the planning commission for exactly how the place is going to be built. So the development plan is a snapshot of what it's going to look like when I walk out there. It's all done. This building's going to be in this spot, these basins are going to be here, and then as a result of the final construction, I require as-built of the detention basins to not only show that they were designed accordingly, but they were constructed accordingly as well. Because there can be slight variation. So we will be receiving stamped as-built plans that show slope and volume, pipe diameter, so that we know that it was constructed the way the engineer designed it.
Squire Booth?
Are you going to require a letter of credit like you do on other development projects from the Tierney Company?
So the current development regulations provide developers with two options when developing. More so when they're subdividing property, and I'll briefly describe it. Prior to recording a subdivision plat that requires public infrastructure, the developer has the option of either A, installing all the public infrastructure at their cost up front prior to submitting a plat to my office, i.e. he or she can't transfer property until all the improvements are complete. That's option one. Option two is submit the plat to my office along with construction estimates, and then that's followed up with a letter of credit, 125% of the estimated construction cost. In this case, based on this concept plan, there will not be any subdivision of property, so therefore a plat will not be required. And so in that event, then I will require a letter of credit under the guise that the road shown on the property is intended to be published.
He can't build anything until this development plan is done, okay?
Well, if in case you don't do it right,
Well, he can't do it. He can't, am I right, Robert?
That is correct. The planning commission, in this case, has the authority to approve or deny the development plan. If they deny it, they will require changes to it and then be brought back before them. So the planning commission will receive the development plan, all the construction drawings, engineering reports, things of that nature. So they will have everything that I have in reviewing the development plan. And if the planning commission approves it, the chairman of the planning commission will sign the development plan, not me. And then that authorizes the issuance of building and construction permits.
I'd like to add that we built over 1 million square feet of warehouse space. This is not our first time coming to build a project or even build out.
Judge, may I ask?
If you would, I ask the audience not to speak out and just raise your hand and calling you, but I really wanna, this is not a public hearing. I'm allowing you to rebuttal or, to follow up on what is asked of you. Squire, Booth, go ahead.
I wanted to ask Mr. Attorney, what other industrial projects you have built in Franklin County? I understand that you have, your company has.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me try that to keep from violating Judge Houston's.
No, he can answer that.
Okay.
He can, well, she directed the question to him.
Okay.
We've developed Industrial Park 2, which is right there adjacent to the Duncan Road property. We've built the HTNA complex. We've built another 250,000 square feet that are on the back part of Langview Drive. We have rehabbed the old Bendix building, which was 212,000 square feet that we rehabbed and has now had over 300 employees in it over the past year. We've built 20 different buildings in Winchester, Clark County, Kentucky.
No, I mean in Franklin County.
Yep. And that would be the majority of, probably 80% of industrial parks that's adjacent to the Duncan Road property.
They belong to the Tierney Company, or they were sold later to other companies.
They were all built as spec buildings mainly from the get-go. They were then leased out to other people and some of them have been sold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions from the court? Squire Moore.
Ask Robert something, you said that the county engineer will check the runoffs. I know this is just an opinion, but what's your opinion of his ability to do that?
The county engineer,
Mhm.
he's extremely well qualified. He excels in hydrology. He's assisted the county with the design for the regional basins when we were looking at the project with the state for the Sibley branch. You know, he's been the county engineer for quite a long time. He was successful in the reevaluation of the flood insurance rate maps. When he had Two Creeks Neighborhood Association as a client, he found the federal government made a mistake in the value. So when it comes to hydraulics, he's top notch.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Robert, while you're up there, Mr. Tierney went through a list of properties that are built in industrial park number 1. And you're aware of those buildings and you've worked with Mr. Tierney on those buildings?
Yes, with industrial park number 3, just
I'm sorry.
for the record.
Yeah.
But I think Mr. Tierney missed a couple of buildings that they constructed, he didn't mention. The one is right at the very entrance, which is now Dave's Boat Sale, that's roughly 200,000 square feet. And then there's approximately, well, there are two with 250,000 square foot structures on Langview Drive.
150.
Oh, they're each 150?
150, 120.
Okay, even though you did the additions on the back as well, okay. All right, so there's those 2 facilities, and then the 3 additional buildings that were built out associated with the HTNA project that he referenced. So total of what, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 buildings in industrial park number 3, over 500,000 square feet.
So you would be able to say that you've had a lot of, you've worked with Mr. Tierney in a lot of construction of buildings.
Yes, sir. I've worked with Mr. Tierney ever since fiscal court was up on the 3rd floor. So I guess that's what, 10 years now,
Long time.
long time. Yes.
And to the best of your ability, can you verify, confirm that he has worked with you when you've asked him to do something, he's done it?
That is correct. He's always worked well with us, whether it's the need of the fire department or items that need to be taken care of as part of my processes. You know, he's always done what I asked him to do. He's been timely with it. He does understand, you know, for instance, buffering requirements. When he built the 2 buildings on Langview Drive, he called me specifically, Robert, I'm required to put in these triple row of evergreens. Can I space them so the bush hog can get between? I said, that's exactly perfect. That's great. No one else has done that. I mean, you gotta be able to get in there and maintain it. So he calls me to make sure he's doing it right. Calls me to come look at his facilities, you know, during construction. He wants to make a change in the field. He'll call me out and go over it. The engineer will send me a cut sheet. I'll attach it to the drawings. So yes, he has complied with everything I've asked him to do and during all those projects.
Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. I just want to talk to the court for a minute. I feel like we're getting off the road again because we're starting to talk about the person and the applicant instead of the zone change. And I think that's what we're here to look at, the zone change only, not what's happened in the past, not things like that. So I feel like the last 2 years, we spent a lot of time looking at a lot of different things instead of focusing on what we should be focusing on. So I just wanted to throw that out there to everybody that tonight's just about a zone change.
Squire Booth?
Well, the zone change. According to our adopted comprehensive plan is in flux right now. I mean, our comprehensive plan is in flux. And we had just started, well, this year, started making changes to that. And it won't be finished until next year. So I think that basing plans on the adopted comprehensive plan is illogical.
Mr. Rump, I'd ask if you sit down, I'll call on you if I need you to say something, okay? Mr. Hill?
Development is because.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rump.
That's okay.
I was trying to
Car,
keep.
you don't start driving.
Let's go with the nut.
So if I can address the Squire Booth statement,
Yes,
I would advise the court that we are working under an adopted comprehensive plan. The planning commission readopted their existing plan prior to its expiration last year to stay in compliance with W5 statute.
Yeah,
So we have an adopted plan. The consultant does have a 15-month schedule, if you will, for completion of the current or of the ongoing comprehensive plan update. I would ask the court that that it's not wise to stop all development while you're working on the plan, because it's still just a plan. It could, the last time we revised the comprehensive plan, it took 5 years.
yes, I remember.
So we couldn't stop development for 5 years just because we were working on it, So it could be longer than 15 or 17 months, because remember, there are two parts of that contract. One is to rewrite the comprehensive plan, and then the second is to rewrite the zoning law, which is another 15 to 17 months.
Oh,
We're looking
it's
at doing that.
another 15 months.
Yes, ma'am. So you're looking at a complete rewrite of these
If I'm read out
regulations.
of the can.
It's the biggest change to the regulations in my department since zoning was adopted in the county.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Like Squire Tracy, I'm interested in, item, I guess, goal 5, policy 1, which is, and this is to you, sorry, you were already there. Where it says preserve streams, drainage ways to manage stormwater runoff. Some things, as the Counselor Sparks had said, were incorporated by reference. There was a letter in there from county engineer that talked about issues. I think several of us have talked about exacerbating existing stormwater runoff. So I want to talk a little bit, if you could, about detention basins and what those actually do. I'm not an engineer, but I'm living with someone who deals with a lot of that. It's supposed to slow the water. And so if you could maybe talk to the court and help us understand about the water, because that continues to be something that I hear about on every side is the water. So if you would please talk to us a little bit about that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to start with the blanket statement that Franklin County has identified the Slickway watershed as a sensitive area.
Yes, I
Okay,
know.
any development in that area, I tell every developer, you're gonna be required to go above and beyond, just
Yeah.
right out of the gate. I don't wait till the end. I say, right out of the gate, you're gonna go above and beyond. Planning Commission knows it. Planning Commission granted me that authority to do so. All right. So with that being said, our stormwater regulations are minimum standards for water volume and quality. All right. So in general terms, the rate of flow from your property after construction cannot exceed the rate of flow coming off your property before construction. Okay, so the numbers have to be the same. The difference is that the water, instead of sheeting across the entire property, comes from a point source, i.e. the outlet pipe. Okay, so a detention basin is engineered and designed so that the water is directed to that basin. And it is contained within that basin. And then based on the size of the pipe that is calculated for the water to go out of, that's what controls the rate of water volume, okay? So that's how the engineers are able to calculate, collect, and discharge the water at a given rate, okay? Franklin County has 4 different storm design events that they have to calculate for on each event. So
What was the retention basin because of the Slickaway branch by the Two Creeks subdivision? What was that?
those were detention basins that this fiscal court under previous administration had gotten onto the transportation cabinet's schedule to reduce flooding along Slickaway branch. Okay, so those would have been detention basins. You've heard tonight from Mr. Romp, as you've seen on your document here, there's another kind of,
Detention basis, not retention.
correct, there are 2 different things. So a detention basin is dry until it rains, then it'll hold water for a given amount of time, calculated amount of time, and then the water will drain out, and then there will be no water left. A retention basin also holds water all the time. It accumulates stormwater, and then it either is evaporated, or there is a spillway that would release the extra at a given rate as well. Okay. But a
Like on
retention
Carville
basin-
Lane. Right there.
Yeah, Cardwell Lane, that's a
Yeah.
retention basin, yes. So it always holds water, but it does have an outflow
Yeah,
component to it.
yeah,
So,
I know, but that's in my district, yes.
and so retention basins are not only a landscape feature, but they serve a purpose of managing storm.
Yes, the developers went well before you came into your position. I realized that, and I thank you for it.
Yes,
So the one they approved, the state approved and had on the list, they never funded it. Is that correct?
that is correct. That cost estimate several years ago was 2.1 million. Until on behalf of the court, I advocated for it at the state level, and it just didn't.
We even met with Representative Gravis. And it
Yes.
didn't get any traction.
Yes, and that was a much needed project, and Jim.
I think
the
you were part of
project-
several of those meetings as well.
I
We're
was at
talking
every
about
one of them, yeah.
medicine?
Well, we're talking about the Slickaway Branch watershed, which this subject property
Oh,
drains to. Okay.
yes,
Um,
okay,
And then, so,
So
this,
this will help that situation.
yes, so
Yeah.
detaining the stormwater as part of an improved development plan will give us a calculated rate of discharge, so we know exactly what's going into Slippery Branch and how much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Other questions? Other questions?
You know, at the last meeting, you said attorney wasn't gonna speak. It was just gonna be us.
Well, I asked him to speak because Marty addressed it
Okay.
initially.
I just know the public isn't here to be able to speak, so I figured we were just going on our information that we got from the planning commission.
So,
Go ahead.
Counselor Sparks, I've got one for you. Tonight, we'll be reaching this decision based on KRS 100.213, is that correct? And if so, can you go over that with us? I want everybody to understand what we're doing. Thank you.
The decision from planning and zoning, which denied a zone change. And you all should have received copies, et cetera, about the denial and the basis from it, as well as the information presented to planning and zoning relative to their belief that this has been an appropriate consideration to be presented under KRS 100.213. That's what you're doing today. All of those things put in together.
what does it say?
It says before any map amendment is granted, the planning commission, or in this case, the legislative body, must find them in the app that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan, or in the absence of such a finding, that one or more of the following apply, and that such findings shall be recorded in the minutes and records of the planning commission or the legislative body. Number one, the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate and the proposed zoning is appropriate. Or number two, there have been major changes of an economic, physical, and social nature within the area involved, which were not anticipated in the adopted comprehensive plan, or which have substantially altered the basic character of the area. And that's what you're deciding today, whether or not these things and the matters presented in your videos and your transcripts, et cetera, are in conformity with the existing classification. And if they're not, should it be changed?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, are there any other questions? Any other questions? All right, seeing none, ask for the court, and I will, call on you individually to give me your thought on to move to item 3 or to uphold the planning committee. Is that correct? And to move forward. Okay. I'll start with you, Squire Black.
So you're wanting me to go on number 2, authorization to approve a resolution to accept and approve the recommendation.
Yeah, confirm or confirm the planning and zonings.
Approve or
now,
reject.
Or move to or further findings of fact to move forward.
Well, I would vote to accept their denial, but I don't agree with all their finding of fact, but let's just leave it simple and say I'm a yes for that.
Squire Booth.
I'm very torn on this. I visited 690 and it seemed much better than it was in 2020. And in fact, I called the Chamber of Commerce and told them I thought that. But the reasons that were given in 2020 weigh heavily on my mind. And I hate to say that it's because of personality, but I guess it is. I would vote yes to approve the rejection or the denial. I will vote yes to approve it.
Squire Moore.
I'd be a no.
Squire Tracy.
Yeah, I would not agree with the planning commission's findings of fact. Not all of it, so.
Okay. Squire Sebastian.
I'm a no.
Squire Mullen.
No.
All right. So now the majority of the court, we're going to move to item number 3, and that's authorization to establish findings of facts pursuant to KRS 100.213 related to requests by Tierney Storage LLC for approval zoning map changes of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances for an 85.388 acre portion of property identified as portion of tract number 1, 84.058 acres, a portion of PBA map number 087-00-00-031.00, and a portion of tract number 2, 1.331 acres plus or minus, a portion of PBA map number 087-00-00-031.01, located at 690 Duncan Road from Agricultural District AG to Industrial General District IG. Okay, this, what we're gonna do is Tambra and Robert will take findings of fact. And I'll ask each of you, or we'll start with Squire Moore. And if you'll hold on one second, Squire Moore.
I was just gonna say, while you're, since I vote last every time, I would like to give my findings of fact first.
I'll.
Wow.
Lambert
We're
stepping
giving you the
up.
last word.
Yeah, what about
I
that?
set the tone for everybody.
All easy. Come on.
Hey.
All right. So we'll start with you, Squire Moore. Would you present your findings of
I
fact?
love it. I love it. Well,
Number one, the subject property is adjacent to an existing industrial park.
Okay, after each finding of fact, I'll ask that, we'll have a discussion. We will, pull all the findings of facts together. Once we've gotten them all, then we'll go back to the court and we'll vote on which ones to accept as part of item number 4, the first reading of the resolution. Okay,
Yeah.
right?
Ordinance.
Or reading of an order. I
You want
apologize.
to review my second one?
Do you want to do all of this?
Or
at
you want to talk
once?
about? it
You want to do all?
If not,
of
he's
yours?
gonna be mad. He wants to give them all out. Come on, Lambert.
Okay, all right, Lambert, if you want to go ahead.
The existing zoning is inappropriate and the requested zoning is appropriate.
Okay. You have another.
No, that's it.
You sure?
I'm positive.
I'm gonna give you the floor. You wanna have another?
Exactly.
Yeah, room on my paper.
Okay.
Hey, I got a whole lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I got all kinds.
how small is that piece of paper, Lambert?
All right, Squire Tracy.
The subject property is adjacent to an established industrial park within Franklin County.
Any discussion on that? All right, is that it, Squire Tracy?
Sure, yes, I'm good.
Okay. Squire Sebastian.
I didn't even have to say it. Y'all just picked up on it through osmosis. So I had the same finding of fact. I mean, you know, it's very clear that it is adjacent to a existing industrial park. So that's the finding of fact that I was going to offer,
Okay,
because the stormwater, we talked about the detention basins, and I thought that was very important for everybody to understand the nature of that. Because that seems to be a sticking point.
Yes,
Squire Mo.
Thank you. I'm gonna throw out, the current comp plan says Franklin County has 600 acres for industrial zoning and 250 acres for commercial land.
Any discussion on that? The current comp plan says we have
600
600.
industrial acre zoning.
As it what date it said that?
That's back to 16.
That's on when? What date?
That's back in 16.
216.
Yep.
Okay. I'll do one. The subject property is within 1 mile of the Interstate 64 interchange. Squire Blackburn.
All right. And those statements are all true, and they're all supported in goal 3, which is using infrastructure as a planning tool. So that's one goal, and absolutely, it falls in that. But there's this is in my district. It's close to my heart. Out of all the goals, there's 32 policies. And 9 of the policies within the 32 goals directly relate and support this development. With infrastructure, with proximity, with all of those things. But there's one out of the 32 policies that's contested. In my mind, and has been fleshed out in the hearings. 22 of the 32 applicable policies are directly contradictory, or they're just flat out non-compliant. So we're talking less than 30% of the policy criteria of this application is supported by this rezoning to industrial. I want to point out that the attorney today said it was appropriate for industrial. On the land use map, it says employment center, and I know those do fall under industrial, some industrial designations. But to put that out in first, it's a little misleading. So, where do I start? I don't want to get into the preservation thing because that's gone. That land will never be the same. And a lot of people have told me, well, why does it matter? You got a hill and you move the hill, It's no longer a hill. We can't play on the hill. So that's water under the bridge. The water problem, and what a lot of people don't understand, that property crests. And the front of that property goes into Slickaway, and the back of that property goes into Glenn's Creek. And on our side of it, we're Slickaway. Glenn's Creek is our neighbor. So I know, and I wouldn't expect our P and Z folks to look at any issues that are on the other side of that fence. But they're there. And the second district of Franklin County butts up to the second district of Woodford County. And I talked to J.C. Watts. I talked to the judge executive over there. So I'm about being a good neighbor as well. So let's see here. I don't want to draw this out too much, but I just want to tell everybody where I'm at. It doesn't complicate, it's to public service in the rural areas, and it fails to in any way complement the rural setting. The existing industrial park, before it was created, we didn't have to go out there and put cones in the road when water came over the road 40 years ago. I've talked to all the people that live there that have been there a long time. Now we do. And I know Mr. Tierney's engineer. I know him well, and he's an excellent engineer. And I'm reassured that what he's going to do, or what his plan is, and through Robert's holding the standard higher in these flood sensitive areas. Robert and I met with several people, emergency management, and we, talked to Tommy, where do you go out and put these cones? Because these are issues that happen every time it rains, and rains hard. So Robert's very well aware of it, and he is making a big effort, and already has made a big effort to make sure that we don't have these problems in the future. My thing is, we haven't planned where we're going to grow. Everybody talks smart growth, and the only thing on the comprehensive plan that says this is in the plan is the comprehensive land use map. Over 70%, 70% of the plan itself is against this in all aspects. But everybody's hanging up on that land use map. And the land use map, the public input on that was a public hearing after it was drawn up by, there's a lot put into that. It wasn't drawn up hastily, but yeah, of course, an industrial park is going to have a big water line running through it. Of course, it's going to have wastewater coming around it. You do it again. I mean, they're always going to be connected. So we haven't planned where we're building. We're tearing up what we've got. And this land is irrevocably changed. So I'm going to say it doesn't promote. It doesn't help us distinguish our town and country identity.
That's a statement of.
That's a finding of fact.
Finding of fact. Would you say that again for them to make sure they get that written down?
It fails to distinguish town and country identity. And another one. The protection and preservation of existing neighborhoods. Because I'm a neighbor guy. I'm good to my neighbors. My neighbors know me. Not everybody's good to their neighbors. Enhanced community, it does not enhance community quality and character.
Wait a minute, is this a third one? If you would.
Yeah,
Say this
yeah.
is 1, this is 2, this is 3,
Yeah.
and this is for them to.
Number 2 is it does not preserve existing neighborhoods. Number 3, it does not enhance community quality and character.
Okay.
And I think that's enough.
Square Booth,
I have one.
okay,
the land has been irrevocably changed, as JW said. And therefore is not suitable for agricultural use anymore.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, now, Tambra, if you would, we're gonna go back to Squire Moore and let him start with. Actually, we'll go to the court with what Squire Moore said. And then we'll look for a motion to approve in a second, right? No, what are we gonna do?
We'll do that in the voting session. Right now, we just need to collect the findings of fact.
Okay, we've collected it.
And each
Bring it
one,
out.
each finding of fact will then be voted on individually. But I
Okay.
would,
With the next one, with the next item. Is that correct?
once we go into the vote session.
Okay, all right. Squire Tracy,
Oh, okay.
Would you have, Amber read the findings of fact?
I would, if you all
Because we
don't,
may, there may be some.
Yeah, but Scotty's and mine were similar, but he put Franklin County in his, so uses his.
if you all don't mind just to say yours again to make sure that I got everything right and Robert's taking them also.
why don't you do this, Tambra? Read the first one and then let's clarify and make sure that's done right. Read the second one, clarify, and make sure that's done right, and we'll go through all of them that way.
Squire Moore, I have the subject properties adjacent to an industrial park.
Sorry, I just.
Okay.
In Franklin County.
Okay.
That's Squire Tracy said.
The existing zoning is inappropriate. And I didn't get the rest
The requested zoning is appropriate.
Yeah, and
requested, okay. Squire Tracy, are you good with Squire Moore's?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
So his was the same as Squire Moore's. Okay,
Oh, good.
next one.
Squire Muller.
No, Squire Sebastian,
Mm-mm.
she didn't have any.
No, because it was,
Okay.
She-
Squire Muller.
Squire Muller, the current comp plan says we have 600 industrial acres of industrial zoning. What you meant? Okay.
600 acres. industrial zone,
And 250 commercial.
Commercial. zone.
Oh,
Thank you.
and- Judge Wells, the subject property is within 1 mile of the interstate.
Interstate 64 interchange.
JW, I'm all over the board with yours. I'm trying to take notes while you were doing them, so I'm not 100% sure which ones.
Read me the first one.
Doesn't help us distinguish our town and country identity.
Does not
It fails to
distinguish,
distinguish,
yeah, fails to distinguish in the front of that.
A town and country identity.
Does not enhance community quality and character. That was 3, wasn't it?
Yes, does not preserve existing neighborhood.
Does not preserve existing neighborhoods. That's number 2. Does not enhance community quality and character. That's number 3.
Got that one, and then fails to complement the existing setting.
That was number 2, wasn't it? I just had 3.
I've got 4.
Oh, you said
3's
three.
fine. Those first 3.
Remove fails to complement existing setting.
Yeah, that's
Pretty much same as that. other
same
one.
as the other.
Okay. All right. Squire Booth, the land has been irrevocably changed and not suitable for AG use anymore. Or you said agricultural. I said that.
Yeah, agricultural use.
Okay, they got it? Everybody? Confirm. Squire Tracy,
I've got one more. If that's okay.
okay,
The subject property is bound by industrial zoning to the northeast, west, and north within Franklin County.
Subject property is bound by industrial setting.
Zoning.
By industrial zone. Northeast and west sides.
Northeast, west, and north within Franklin County.
northeast, west, and north.
All right. All right. Southeast, No. It's not Wentz. Wentz.
Yeah, within Franklin County there.
No, Wentz.
Okay, then the northwest.
Read it back to me.
Subject is bound by industrial zoning on north, east, west, and north of Franklin County.
Northeast.
Northeast.
West and north.
That's what, yeah, I said northeast,
Yeah.
west, and north. Correct,
This one.
In Franklin County.
In Franklin County.
yeah.
Subject property is bound.
All right, are there any more? Everybody understand where we are? Everybody okay with where we are? And as we still can change the verbiage, I'm sure, if we get into it. Okay. All right. With that being said, let's now go to the voting session. And I'll tell the public that we have we just finished our work session and now we're moving into the voting session. And that's a little bit different. Still same type of process. Clerk, call the roll.
Smart Sebastian,
Here.
Squire Blackburn,
Present.
Squire Muller,
Present.
Squire Tracy.
Here.
Squire Booth,
Present.
Squire Moore,
Here.
Judge Wells,
Here. Now, Timber, let's start with the first one. Finding a fact. Is that right? Nope.
we're gonna, vote on the resolution first.
Okay. I apologize, everybody. This is all new. We're trying to do this by accordance of the law. So the first item on the agenda is authorization to approve a resolution to accept and approve the recommendation of denial related to rezoning of property located at 690 Duncan Road, identified as portion of tract number 1, 84.058 acres plus or minus a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.00 and a portion of tract number 2, 1.331 acres plus or minus a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.01 from agricultural district AG to industrial general district IG. Is there a motion? No, you,
Yeah, I make a motion.
okay, you make the motion, okay? For approval of the denial,
I make a motion.
okay? Is there a second?
I'll second it so we can vote on it.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second for approval of the denial by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Everybody understand what you're voting on? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
In reaching out to Counselor Sparks, just to make sure that we understand what we're doing today, and this decision is rooted in statute, and the wording is very direct and narrow, that the map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan, or it isn't. I'm a no.
Squire Blackburn,
It's in total agreement with over 60% of the plan. I'm a yes.
Squire Muller,
No.
Squire Tracy.
No.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
No.
Judge Wells,
No. Okay. Now.
okay.
Now we're going to authorization to establish findings of fact pursuant to KRS 100.213 related to a request by the Kearney Storage LLC for approving zoning map changes of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances for an 85.388 acre portion of property identified as a portion of tract number 1, 84.058 acres plus or minus a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.00 and a portion of tract number 2, 1.331 acres plus or minus a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.01 located at 690 Duncan Road from Agricultural District AG to Industrial General District IG. And we have
Okay.
findings of fact, and we'll go one at a time. We will need a motion and a second to move forward, and then we will vote.
I'll let you read them off.
Alright.
They have a motion. First one.
Okay, here's the first one. This one was submitted by Squire Moore. Number one, the subject property is adjacent to an industrial park in Franklin County.
So move.
Move. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay. If there's a discussion, I'll ask on each one if there's a discussion. If hearing none, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
yes,
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next item. This one was also presented by Squire Moore. The existing zoning is inappropriate and the requested zoning is appropriate.
So move.
Second.
Is there discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
No,
Squire Blackburn,
No.
Squire Muller,
No.
Squire Tracy.
No.
Squire Booth,
no,
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. The next item, this was presented by Squire Tracy. This is subject property is bound by industrial zoning on northeast, west, north of Franklin County.
Someone.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
yes.
Squire Blackburn,
I'll say yes, and I'll explain. Northeast, north, and west, it's also bound by east, southeast, south, and southwest by other zoning designations.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
yes,
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next one was presented by Squire Muller. The current comp plan says we have 600 industrial acres of industrial zoning and 250 acres of commercial zoning. Before we do that, Robert, can you, since this was a fact presented by the 2016 comprehensive plan, can you confirm that? Is that okay,
Mhm.
Squire Muller?
Yeah.
That is the case?
It is true, that is the wording within the currently adopted comprehensive plan. Does that answer? your
That's all you
question?
need to say.
Okay.
That's what
thanks.
Squire Muller said.
Then-
And
then that-
I wasn't doubting Squire Muller, I think the court needed, without that in front of us, if we're gonna confirm or deny, I think we need to hear it. It does say that. Okay,
It does say that.
okay, that's all Squire Muller said.
Yes.
Okay, okay, is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Is there a second? Okay, discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
As we just heard from our planning director, I didn't bring mine with me. Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth,
yes,
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. The next item. This is one by me. The subject property is within 1 mile of Interstate 64 interchange. Robert, can you go back up to the podium? I think we all know, but can you verify that this subject property is within the 1 mile of Interstate 64 interchange? Is that to your knowledge?
Yes, sir, I measured it myself.
Okay.
What is it, if you don't mind, Robert? It's less than a mile for sure.
It's less than a mile, which a mile is 5,280 feet, so,
You didn't walk it, did you?
no,
Okay.
no, I didn't. I used the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Centerline data that they also utilize. It has line segments with mile markers and all points.
mhm. It's by road, yeah, by the road,
Yes, ma'am, by the center line of the roadway, correct, so.
okay.
That's in the state database, so we have that information as well, so that's what.
Center, that's where some of the trucks out there drives in the center line.
That's everywhere. I hate to
All right.
say.
Thank you, Robert.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
yes,
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Will.
Yes. Next item is the next three were done by Squire Blackburn. Does not distinguish our town and country identity.
So moved.
second,
Discussion. Does not distinguish our town and country identity. Okay, everybody understand that is discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
No.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
I'd say yes.
Squire Tracy.
No.
Squire Booth.
yes,
Squire Moore.
No.
Judge Wells.
No. The next one, also done by Squire Blackburn, does not preserve existing neighborhoods.
So moved.
second,
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Just in there.
Can you read that one more time?
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Does not preserve existing neighborhoods.
preserve,
Preserve.
No.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
No.
Squire Booth.
yes,
Squire Moore.
No.
Judge Wells.
No. The next one, also by Squire Blackburn, does not enhance quality and character.
So moved.
second,
Discussion.
well, and character of,
It just says quality and
Not
character.
enhance quality and character. That's
Of
all
what?
it said. He
No.
said
Instead of
what you-
agriculture.
no, he said something
I just
else.
want to make sure. I
Community
understand.
quality and character, right?
Yeah.
What is-
Community.
Community.
the
Does not
community.
enhance community quality and character.
Yeah.
All right, community, plan.
I apologize.
It's all right,
Okay, hang on, let us correct that one.
Thank you.
Did I already make the motion?
Okay,
make it again,
I made it, you seconded it.
Yeah.
yes,
okay, we'll start again on a motion because we added community, another word into it. Is that okay? All right. Does not enhance community quality and character.
So moved.
second,
Discussion. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Can you read that just one more
Does
time?
not enhance community quality and character.
No.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
No.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
yes,
Squire Moore.
Oh,
Judge Wells.
No. The next one was done by Squire Booth. Land has been irrevocably changed and not suitable for agricultural use anymore.
so moved,
Not a second on it? Okay, last call, no second. Okay, that one.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, now Tamara, would you read back what we have?
Okay. Squire Moore's, 1 and 2. First one passed, second one failed. Squire Tracy, passed. Squire Muller's passed. Judge Wells passed. Squire Blackburn's number 1 failed. Squire Blackburn's number 2 failed. Squire Blackburn's number 3 failed. Squire Booth did not get a second.
Okay, so I will need you to read into the first reading of an ordinance amending the, okay, all right. This part, okay, you ready to move back?
So the ones that passed
Pass will be read.
will be, added into the ordinance, Robert. You can put it in, or I can put it in either way. Right now, it just currently sits with an open space to include.
Should
that.
we not go ahead and read them as part of this? I think we should.
Before, Madam Clerk, did we get a vote on most or finding number 3? Subject property adjacent to an established industrial park in Franklin County. Did we?
That was
Yes.
Squire Moore's number 1.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Okay,
I apologize.
here's what I'm gonna ask. This is not a vote. This is the first reading, so I'll read this. I'll read the first reading, and then we will add the findings of fact that were approved by the court. This is the first reading of an ordinance amending the table of special ordinances, section 1, zoning map changes of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances for an 85.388 acre portion of property identified as a portion of tract number 1, 84.058 acres plus or minus a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.00 and a portion of tract number 2, 1.331 acres plus or minus a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.01 located at 690 Duncan Road from agricultural AG to industrial general IG with these findings of fact.
I can't believe they didn't put my finding of fact in there. I mean, everybody wants it to be industrial, don't they? Except me and you.
didn't want it to be that obvious, Marty.
Okay,
Mm.
these findings of fact. These findings of fact will be part of this first reading and will be voted on at our second reading on September the 1st. 1, the subject property is adjacent to an industrial park in Franklin County. 2, subject property is bound by industrial zoning on north, northeast, west, north of Franklin County. 3, the current comp plan says we have 600 industrial acres of industrial zoning and 250 acres of commercial zoning. 4, the subject property is within 1 mile of Interstate 64 interchange. Those are the findings of fact for the first reading, and they will carry over to the vote on September the 1st. Are there any discussions concerning these matters? Everybody understand that? Seeing that there are no other discussions, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yeah.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Court. Thank you for those that showed up today, too. Thank you.